Yeah.
All right, so I'm Apeksha. I'm Chief Engineer and Co-founder at Gatik. So what that means is I get to do a lot of, I get to put in a lot of awesome stuff into the boring cars that you see around. So I'm trying to make them awesome. And as you said, boss around, make them so that we can boss them around, right? So that's my role at Gatik. How did I start? How did I get into it? So this is my picture when I was of your age. So I was a geek. I loved math. I loved computers. Computers were new. Computers were we did not have any laptops. We had like a huge monitor that was like this big, and it was the first when my father got that. First time, me and my brother were so excited. We were literally just playing games on it. So that was the first thing. And I don't know how many of you guys know Paint, MS Paint. Has anyone heard of it? It was like my art. It brought the artist in me. So it was the place where I would just go and do doodling. Like nowadays you call it doodling, but that time I used to basically sketch out a lot of weird stuff. And games plus sketching got me thinking together, oh wow, why can't I make games, right? So I was like almost, I would say 13 when I got into understanding how programs work, what's coding like. And the first thing that I actually made were these two games. They were basically, it's a very weird picture, I would know. So that's basically a racing car game. I don't know if you guys can think of that as actually cars, but that's what I thought, that those were like cars. And I actually made those in MS Paint. Like those were the cars and those were the roads that I drew. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay, I thought there was a question. So that was a racing game. You have to press the right and left arrow. The car keeps on going and you just keep on pressing right and left arrows to pass through the other cars on the road. And then this was the second one, which I basically made. I'm not sure if you guys know about Dave, but it's like Mario. Do you guys know Mario? So Mario is like you try to avoid obstacles along your way and you try to bring your character to the end, right? So there was something similar to Mario that I tried to replicate. I was basically making this weird looking guy dodge bullets. That was the second game that I made. So that's how I got actually excited about programming. I understood that, I thought that, oh, I have tools that using which I can actually create things that are wonderful, that are amazing, that I can create games, I can make movies, I can make stuff. Like there was so much of opportunity of using these tools to make so many wonderful things. That's how I really got excited about coding, programming.
Sorry, can everyone hear? Okay.
So yeah, that's how I got into it. And once I was in it, I was like, okay, I understand how programming works. I understand how I can make games. But then there was this huge piece of computer right there. And the big thing was, how does this big piece is able to make those programs? And how are those programs able to be presented on a screen that can make games work? Like what's happening behind the curtains? What's happening inside this computer that's making all this thing happen? So that got me much more excited about what's the physical components, what are those hardware that basically translate into so much wonderful stuff that's happening on the screen. So that's how I basically got interested in electronics, in robotics, in basically the hardware that ties everything together. So yeah, and then I basically kept on working on several different projects, several different robots. Actually, one of my first robots that I've worked on is the one that we are going to work together today. So that was a robot that basically if you draw a line, a black line, it kind of just follows it. It's called a line follower robot. So that was my first interaction with robotics. So I'd like to show a very, so this is one of the robots that I worked on during my undergrad. It's basically trying to, what it's doing right now is it's trying to map, it's trying to explore its surrounding. It's something called TurtleBot. It's basically a platform that people use in robotics to basically try out different stuff. It's an experimental platform. So what I did on this is there's a Kinect on top of it. Do you guys know what's Kinect? You guys must have used it to play games, right? It's basically, it's like Xbox, but not Xbox, but it has a camera that basically senses what actions you are doing, and it basically uses that for you to help you to play games. So those set of cameras can sense the surroundings. So I was using that camera and the platform for the robot to go around different indoors and explore what was there indoors and map those indoors so that the next time the robot comes there, it knows how the surroundings look. And then when you tell the robot, hey, go to the kitchen and get a cup for me, the robot knows where the kitchen is. So that's what it's doing right now. It's basically exploring its surrounding. And sometimes when we are working with robots and making them go explore, they do go crazy and start loving to spin. So this was supposed to just go and explore the surrounding, but the robot just started loving to spin. And it just kept up spinning and spinning and spinning. So just went crazy. It's and then there are times when, I think I have, you can hear the noise. It's the robot's just reluctant to go ahead. So these are like the instances where you're working with robot. These are very funny but very interesting moments where you're wanting the robot to do something, but because of one or the other thing, there are issues and you have to solve them. But these are the funny instances where the robots go crazy. You ask them to do something, but they're doing something else. So it was supposed to go smooth, but it's like so reluctant to move ahead. So it's like just shaking ahead while moving.
How do you deal with those challenges and those struggles?
Firstly, you start laughing because it's so crazy. But then it's basically then you have to figure out what went wrong. There are a number of things that might have gone wrong in the entire process. Like for example, in robots, you have hardware and software. So there can be things that might have gone wrong in the wheels, in the actuators that basically tie these all to the platform. There might be something wrong with the eyes, the sensing, the cameras. So there can be something wrong with the software itself. The software has some kind of small incorrect code that just slipped into it, and it's now making the robot do crazy stuff. So that's how you deal with crazy robots. That's one of my other projects. Okay, let me ask a quick question. What do you think that is?
It looks like one of those VR things that you use when you're playing VR games.
Oh, okay, you're quite close. There was a person who actually asked me, is that a jetpack? Are you going to fly with that? There was literally a person when I was going around wearing that, testing it, there was a person who just came to me, are you going to fly with that? So it's basically a device that is used to go around an office or an indoor to create a 3D model of it. So the big LiDAR thing that you see, it's a sensor, it's called LiDAR. It basically uses lasers. The lasers basically strike on walls and objects and returns where these objects are. And the computer uses this information to create the 3D model of it. So this device is basically used for what we call mapping of the indoors. So that was one of the very cool projects that I worked on. I created all the electronics of it. I basically integrated it with all the sensors like cameras and lidars, and it was a very, very fun project. So this is actually this is how the modeling looks like. How when the lidar, these are the point clouds that. Why can I? Yep. So these are this is what the lidar actually sees and how it ties everything together to form a 3D model of a room. So I'm basically wearing this device. I'm basically wearing this device and going around the office and trying to capture all the walls and all the objects around the office through it. That's one more interesting robot that I've worked on. It's called OR3. It's basically an autonomous security robot. What it does is it goes around offices or campus or homes to basically act as a security guard. So it has all the cameras and all a live video feed that can be that you can see on your mobile, that you can see on your computers, and it basically keeps on going around and around campuses, around like offices, and so there's a video of it. Like it has its own drone that it can actually launch if it's not able to go to a particular place. For example, if there's a thief and if he just jumps over a fence and the robot's not able to follow it, it will just launch a drone that basically follows this thief and tries to capture his face, like who was it that did this. So it's a very cool patrolling robot that like maybe we can just, so see, there's a thief, and if he, for example, like just jumped the fence, so the robot would launch its own drone. And it has a lot of different bunch of sensors that basically senses all the different stuff, like what's the dust level, what's the pollution level of the environment, is it going to rain, is there humidity, there are like a lot of different stuff. It's able to sense if there's a person in front of it, if there's a car in front of it. And and it's also able to sense, like, that's me. And it's also able to sense whether if the person it sees, it hasn't seen that person before or not. It recognizes the person. It has the memory of recognizing and keeping that information. So if the robot is able to distinguish between who is a thief and who is a person I know. I know that this person is supposed to be here. I know that this person is not supposed to be here. So it's able to do all the different crazy stuff. Yep. So I think that's all my previous projects before I actually started working with Gatik. I was working on different cool robotics projects and robots, and I met these two equally crazy people for robots, and they wanted to build a self-driving car, which is like a huge robot that goes on the road. And we came together and we decided to start working on this very cool project out of our garage.
Very Silicon Valley.
Yeah. So that's our garage, and that's Gautam, who's standing behind there. And that's our first platform that you see that's just behind there. That's our very, very first platform that we started tinkering with. We just opened all the plastic. We just removed all the plastics, and we were looking inside it, how to make this thing drive itself. So we worked really hard on basically making the car understand our commands, because the cars are not designed to obey our commands, right? They are basically, we need to interact with the steering wheel, we need to interact with the gas pedal, we need to interact with the physically interact with the gas pedal or brake pedal. what we needed to do to make that work by itself was to basically remove all these physical interactions and bring all the cables to the big computer that basically send those commands instead of us. So we spent a great amount of time understanding like how we can make that happen. We did a lot of code, and yeah, so now we have and yeah, so like the way you saw robots going crazy, cars go crazy as well. So we had like when we sometimes test using those joysticks, and you can see how crazy the steering wheel is going, right? And then I come in and I make that smooth. So that's how you basically put in awesomeness in car. You try to make it behave like a human would. You try to give the commands through a computer. You try to replace the interactions that human used to have with the cars with computer interactions. Make the computers give those same commands that a human would have given. So, and that's a funny wave from the car driving itself. That's one of our engineers. Basically, the car is taking rounds around a parking lot by itself. The computers are sending the commands for it to steer the wheel, push the brake pedals, push the gas pedals, and drive around. So you can boss around it now.
So can you actually share about your deal with Walmart and what you're doing for them?
So yeah, we are basically to give a brief understanding of what Gatik actually does different from just making self-driving cars. What we are doing is basically adding this technology of self-driving into cars that do delivery of goods. So these cars are not for people to sit in and have fun, but these cars are basically for delivering goods for customers like Walmart. So Walmart has huge stores in between which it basically wants to keep on transferring some goods that one store has, the other store does not, for example. So it would want one of the stores says, hey, I'm missing these many items, can you please just send those out to me? So our cars just go there, there's no driver in it, and it basically goes there and has one store put in stuff, drives around and gives those stuff to the other store saying, hey, I'm here with your stuff that you needed from the other store. So that's what our basically that's what Gatik does, is it delivers goods from one store to another. So yeah, maybe I have one more video. Yeah, that's how it looks from inside. That's me, and that's one of the other engineers. That's how the car basically, that's how you feel inside the cabin when the car is driving itself. You have the feeling of the wheel turn itself on the road. You have you're just sitting there relaxing and the car is driving itself. So yeah, that's what I do at Gatik.
How did you get a company like Walmart, which is the world's biggest retailer, to notice you, because you're a small startup?
Yep, so because we saw something that everyone was not looking at. So everyone was looking at just this problem, this problem from a technological point of view, that, oh, we have to bring in self-driving car. But hey, once you bring the self-driving car, what are you going to do with it? Why are you going to where are they needed? Where are they needed the most? So more than anything, the delivery of goods is economically a pain point for a lot of customers, because it's taking a huge amount of money, whereas and it's indirectly costing the end consumers like us for basically getting these goods delivered to us at a lower price. And that's what we saw at Gatik, that hey, there's a huge opportunity that we have here that no one else was looking at. And we took this idea, that the understanding that we had about what the self-driving cars could do, and went to Walmart and said, hey, we have this, we see that you need this, and we have the solution. Do you think you need that? And they were like, oh yeah, we do need it. So that's how they got interested in us, and yeah, now we are working with them, providing them our solution.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what role has confidence played throughout your journey?
Oh yeah, so confidence is very important. Sometimes you have ups and downs, and basically you have self-doubts. You have, from everyone that's working around you, you do sometimes get self-doubt. But it's something that you have to understand, that if you think what you're working towards is right, it makes sense. If you think that you have put in all your 100%, if you're putting in whatever you have to build that, to provide that, you need to have the confidence that this is going to work out, because it's basically your efforts and confidence go hand in hand, and should go hand in hand, because if you're putting in efforts, if you're putting in the passion, if you're putting in the hard work that you need to achieve something, that is and should be backed by confidence that if you're on the right direction, if you're putting in the hard work, you would be able to achieve that goal.
And what advice would you give for us girls who would want to follow your footsteps?
So do what you love and love what you do is a great motto that you need to follow. If you really love something, if you really love, for example, robots, if you love to do art, or if you love to do anything, follow that passionately. Have the confidence, have the understanding that if you put in the hard work, if you put in the everything that you have to achieve that, you will achieve that. It's not, there are no barriers, there are no people, even if there's someone saying that this is not possible, it's their opinion. If you are putting in everything, if you're putting in the hard work, if you have the confidence, you will be able to achieve what you have set forward to achieve.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Girls, do you have any
questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In your partnership with Walmart, have there been any accidents?
Oh no, that's one thing that we have to be, even while working with this technology, we have to be very, very, we have to understand that we have a huge responsibility while we are doing this. This is not something that we can take casually. We are working with lives of people, so no, we have not had any accidents here. Go ahead.
So when you guys finish this project with Walmart, what do you guys plan to be as a company?
Yeah, so we hope that we never finish this project with Walmart. We want to keep on extending it. And also, while doing that, we want to have more and more customers like Walmart, for whom we add more and more vehicles. And you see more of Gatik on road.
Why is autonomy so important for the future?
Yep, so there are a lot of different aspects like why autonomy is important. The first and most important is safety, and like reducing the number of accidents is the biggest thing. We know, and statistics has shown that humans are very distracted drivers. They can be distracted by very, very small things. It might be a text, it might be just a call from someone, even a song playing on a radio distracts a human driver. However, that's what is basically complemented by replaced by computers coming into the picture. They are not that easily distracted. So once we have self-driving on road, self-driving cars on road, we would see the amount of accidents and the number of lives lost due to these accidents go drastically down.
Got it. Yeah.
How, like, if there was something going on in the car, like if there was like some problem with the car, how would the robot or like this computer be able to sense that? And is there like an emergency button you could press to like stop it or something?
Yeah, so there are two things here. So first is when we are testing it, for example. In that case, if something goes wrong, yeah, we have an emergency button that we can press. But in general, the computers are basically, sorry, the computers are basically designed to handle these scenarios, understand that something's going wrong, and take a fail-safe decisions in that case. For example, if the computers are sensing that there's something that the vehicle is doing wrong, or if some of the sensors are failing, it basically tries to slow down, comes to a stop on a side, and then basically demands from operators like us that please take over, I cannot handle the situation that's around me.
And do you think self-driving cars are gonna come out?
Pretty soon.
How long after they come out do you think they'll be like on the road? Like everyone will have them or something?
I'm sorry, I'm not able.
How long will it take once they're like safe to drive that you think people will, that they'll become really common?
Oh, so it's more of acceptance even from people that we would have to first go through. But I think it's going to be pretty soon that we are already seeing a lot of self-driving cars on the road, and we are now getting used to seeing self-driving cars on the road. So they're already there. It's more about deploying more and more of these cars on the road.
So do I have to learn how to drive, or can I like get away with Lyft and Uber for
Fingers
a couple
crossed, no.
years? Okay. Yeah.
When you were like, did you know that you wanted to do this?
I never knew I would be building self-driving car though. I knew that I wanted to build robots, but self-driving car was new.
Anyone else? No? Should we transition into the
Yeah, we
activity
can
case?
go ahead and start building robots.
Okay, cool.